Hello, everyone. Let me wait for Facebook to catch up with me. Okay, I am live. Phew, I'm lighting sage because you can't tell. I am exhibiting self-control. But Facebook's new video studio infuriates me. 15 minutes to do everything 5 times, and finally I get a go live button. I don't understand. Is it me? Am I technologically challenged, or is it Facebook? I really don't like to come on every time and bitch about the platform before I speak with you, but venting. All right, hello everyone. I am Carla Sanders, the Cosmic Crone, and I am here to chat with you to anticipate a major astrological event that's coming up later this week. It is in process. It is part of the full moon window, but it's happening a little bit before the full moon, and that is Lilith is changing signs from Gemini into Cancer. She's moving from air into water. Now, this is Black Moon Lilith, and I typically read Black Moon Lilith is very complicated, just even in knowing who she is and what she is, because she's not an object. Black Moon Lilith is a mathematical point. She represents one of the focal points of Moon's elliptical orbit around the Earth. And thus she is always changing. And astronomers / astrologers have calculated an average or a mean Black Moon Lilith. And that's the one that I'm usually refer to when I'm talking about reading an astrology chart and it's Black Moon Lilith. I'm looking at that one. She is symbolized by a crescent moon with a cross, like the bottom half of the Venus sign. There's also the true or osculating Black Moon Lilith, which is calculated for every single minute of the year, and you can look up both in your chart, and they can be very different. They may be close together or they can be very far apart. So because I am working with the archetypes of the planets, I feel like my clients get what they need when we're looking at the mean Black Moon Lilith. And sometimes I will tune in to the so-called true Black Moon Lilith just to see if it's different. So the one that we're talking about that's moving, changing signs, is the mean Black Moon Lilith. And so just own it. Own that this is the goddess. This is Lilith in her form, her avatar of being the goddess, being a feminine, an aspect of the feminine before patriarchy. Lilith takes us back to the root. She takes us back to the Great Mother and beyond. She takes us back to when the male, female, masculine, feminine, light, dark, positive, negative, the polarities, the dynamism of the universe began to create. I guess she takes us back to the Big Bang. So her symbolism is of the goddess who represents the void, the emptiness, the darkness, and can reach into the void and pull out whatever she wants and make it into whatever she wants. So she represents all of the metaphors that we have for creation, for birth, for orgasm, for the Big Bang, for the coming together of energy and having it move through a portal and become form. Black Moon Lilith represents the womb, and the womb lives in the feminine. The feminine, half the planet is female and has a womb. And that may not be accurate because I'm thinking of warm bloods and birds and mammals that have wombs. Many flowers and plants have wombs, but there are, the rest of the biomass may be in a completely different system. It's operating not necessarily in the womb space, but energetically, they still reproduce, they divide, they become more and new and different. So let's just think about what Black Moon Lilith represents and get a handle on that. It's helpful to me to imagine that Black Moon Lilith does stand for the feminine before patriarchy because we need a model. We are, those of us who are in service to the goddess, who are anticipating the day when, and working towards the day when the energy will shift, when patriarchy will put down its iron grip and join the feminine in partnership, and there will be a balance, there will be a collaboration, there will be a true union of masculine and feminine as equals. And in fact, the masculine will recognize the supreme of the feminine simply because she is the one who carries. And therefore, her medicine, her magic, her role in creation requires honoring, reverence, respect, nurture, care, protection, defense, service. So Black Moon Lilith represents all of that. Now, she is anchored in the energy of Lilith. Lilith as a goddess in mythology, in Sumerian mythology, she was this mysterious imp-like person, entity, the handmaid of Inanna. She would go out to the fields and bring the men into ritual, which probably means the hieroskamos, the sacred sexual union with the priestess. She lived in the Yalupa tree, the great tree that Inanna brought to the garden. Sound familiar? And she was going to make her throne and her marriage bed out of it. She was going to be the queen and the priestess. And yet Lilith was there, and a snake was there, and there was a strange bird that was there, and it interfered with Inanna's plans. And that Lilith became the one who came to the Garden of Eden. And she was originally Adam's first wife. God made Lilith out of humus, compost, impure dirt, i.e. fertile, complex, teeming, life-giving earth. And Adam was made out of porcelain. He was considered more pure. Dust, they call it. I call it kaolin porcelain, like the white things I make my sculpture out of. And he got in his mind that made him better than Lilith. He was purer, higher, and she needed to subject herself to him. His powers, now think about this, that purity of clay represents the mind, the intellect, this capacity of the masculine to find the shortest path, the most direct route, to work with systems, but not necessarily complex, living, evolving systems, but static, fixed, logical, if this, then that, and that, and that kind of systems. Single focus, my way or the highway, the right way or no way. And that is a misuse of the masculine energy. That is the way that we've operated throughout the millennia under patriarchy. And we want to put the organic, life-giving, evolving systems of nature under the thumb of this dominion, this colonizing force of the patriarchy. And Lilith said, no, you don't understand. Nothing lives without me. You won't make it without me. And no, I will not submit. And she said the secret name of God and left. And Adam said, God, you got to do something. You know, my woman done left me, and she wasn't going to do what I said anyway, make me somebody else. And so God made Eve out of Adam's rib. And so she did not have the independence that Lilith had. She got her life and her godhood, her divinity, through the man. Okay, let's not go too far down that path, because what we have in astrology, we have 3 Liliths. Lilith Star, the demonized goddess. That's another thing that patriarchy did to the goddess in the feminine, made it evil. And Lilith Asteroid, the disowned feminine, within us, the part of us that we believe is not good enough, that is broken, that is flawed, that is wounded. And especially people with female bodies and female identities, we are told from birth that we are deficient because we're missing a penis. And yet men under patriarchy also have that deficiency. They have their own disowned Lilith, which causes them to suppress half their humanity. And then we have Black Moon Lilith, who somehow expands and embraces all of it. Now, Black Moon Lilith right now is in the very last degree of Gemini. She has gathered up all of her Gemini energy, and it is energy of air, of speed, of intellect, of a very directed and pointed and efficient wisdom. She, in air, I feel the presence of Black Moon Lilith with her owl, flying silently through the night. She can go anywhere when she's air. And right now, as she prepares to cross over in the next few days, she's in a degree that some astrologers identify as the 9/11 degree, the last degree of Gemini. And this is a degree that is associated with disaster, natural disaster like a tidal wave or a big storm or a fire or an earthquake. Or it could be a man-made disaster like a war or a famine or a nuclear meltdown. 9/11, when the planes flew into the World Trade Center and the Pentagon and the ground in Pennsylvania. And so what does it mean that the feminine is there in that degree? Well, use your imagination. And what would you imagine it to mean? As she is changing, she's getting ready to step from this intellectual, air, fast-moving, silent, lethal, and potent version of herself I don't know if Black Moon Lilith in this degree has anything to do with why there is war in the Ukraine right now. I think she was in the 28th degree when that war started, but that's pretty close. I would suggest that we simply hold her here. In some ways, she may be preventing disaster, not causing it. She may be holding the world together right now at this degree as she prepares to move in to Cancer. That almost seems to be the only influence. Otherwise, I don't know why we're still here. You do your meditations on it, and please share in the comments what you think. If anyone else has talked about this that I haven't read, you might, I'm happy to hear what other people have to say. So, Lilith moving into Cancer. My first impression when I looked at the full moon astrology chart and saw, oh my gosh, she's changed signs, I thought, well, oh, what's she going to be? I could really feel the change from earth into air. And my first impression was that Cancer would want to domesticate her because Cancer is the sign of home, nourishment, food. It's associated with the breast and the womb, feeding. It's associated with the mother, nurturing. And, you know, for Lilith to step in there, it's like, oh my God, are they going to put an apron on her and, you know, have her baking? What's she going to be doing? Carpooling and soccer mom? I don't think so. But then I sat with it a longer and I realized that Lilith has an important mother aspect. And we know it. It was given to her as a shadow. But that is like all the shadows bestowed by patriarchy. That is not the truth. So let's take a step back. I did some research on Lilith, reading M. Kelly Hunter, who is my go-to teacher on Lilith, and also looking at another astrologer that someone posted on Facebook, and I kind of expanded my horizons. But mostly I asked Lilith herself, who are you in Cancer? And she says, oh, I'm the Great Mother. Completely matter of fact. I am the Great Mother. I am plugged into the original goddess, the original mother. Have you noticed, don't you always talk about, she says to me, everything comes through me. From the black emptiness through my agency, my womb into form, whether it's an atom or a galaxy. Yes, ma'am, I hear you. I am the Great Mother. I represent creativity. I represent prolific reproduction. I represent fertility, fecundity. I represent more than you can imagine. And I claim it because the shadow of Lilith as mother is that when she abandoned Eden because she refused to submit, she was cursed to bear 100 children a day, and they would all die before dawn. That is a shadow of mother. She produces children prolifically, and none of them live. They barely take their first breath. Someone, Aisha Wolf, has written a poem about it, and I've looked for this poem and I can't find it. And I don't know that she's on Facebook anymore. But she wrote a poem about Lilith's grief and accumulated rage because every child was doomed to die. And when I meditated on this a few years ago, I wrote an article about, or a series of articles about Lilith as triple goddess. And I had a feeling that that somehow justified genocide. That when the Hebrews, whoever they were, took over the land of Palestine, anyone who did not believe in their God Yahweh, anyone who was not them, they were allowed to kill. God commanded them, kill everybody you find there. And maybe they had the convert or die option, I'm not sure. So this is another shadow of Lilith. She represents the children of all of the people who are rejected, disapproved of, considered evil, considered extraneous, needed to be gotten out of the way. And this is something that the patriarchal religions, whether it's Islam, Judaism, especially at that point in time, and Christianity have done everywhere they've gone. It's kill whoever's here. So this shadow of Lilith's motherhood, the collective grief and destruction of her children, is a part of our world history. And this gets activated when Lilith moves into Cancer. 8th, and think of it in terms of ferocity, rage, and intolerable grief. So the invitation of Lilith in Cancer is to grieve for what has been lost, to grieve for what is consistently happening, to grieve for the mothers who cannot feed their children, the mothers whose children are being ripped from their arms, the mothers who are being gunned down in shelters, bombed out in shelters. And this is happening all over the world, not just the Ukraine. So we're looking at the mythical Lilith who dies, whose children die, and then we're looking at the real circumstances of Lilith, whose children, and in some cases it's not being allowed opportunity, education, shelter, food, security, the security of having their families with them. It's happening at the border in southern United States. It's happening in inner cities. I'm feeling Juno being invoked. I'm going to be watching the relationship between Juno and Lilith in Cancer over these 9 months. Juno is probably going to catch up with Lilith in that time frame. We'll see. I haven't looked ahead to that. Juno stands for what is good for women and children. Women and children as the foundational value system that guides governments, laws, and economics. Social justice. Okay, so there's another shadow of Lilith and motherhood, and that is the myth that she would come into houses. She would steal into houses, and she would steal babies. She would murder infants, and she was considered an evil spirit in that way. And at the same time, she took the life from infants in the crib. She would stimulate men through their dreams to have nocturnal emissions, nighttime ejaculation. And this was considered an abomination to the ancient peoples because it was, I think it was mostly because it was semen that had no chance of impregnating and producing another human being, another of God's children. So somehow these two things were equated: kill the babies and cause men to have a nocturnal emission. So that is a real demonizing of her. And people would put up amulets. I don't know if this was the hand. One of her emblems is a hand, and they would put up amulets to ward off Lilith so she couldn't get into the house. Okay, so this is part of the mythology, part of the demonizing of Lilith. Now, the other thing to think about is coming back to my first idea of, is Cancer going to attempt to domesticate Lilith? Given that patriarchy has domesticated motherhood, domesticated mothers, putting them into the house, especially in modern times, and the 50-year, 70-year-old societal form of the nuclear family, where women are isolated alone in a house with children, dependent upon the man who goes out and leaves them and brings back money, we hope. So, yes, patriarchy wants to domesticate motherhood and has succeeded in doing that. Women are barely different from cattle and pigs and chickens and other animals that are domesticated in order to produce. Those other animals produce food and the next generation of food, and women produce the next generation. And it is considered, it's really a screwed up idea, because it is so important that the commodification of reproduction, the status of motherhood is elevated in the public imagination, and yet in real life it is not supported. Women are adjunct. They are Eve. They are the ribs of those men. They have their Social Security. They have their pension. They do not get their own. They're not paid for all of the work they do to keep society going. Lilith in Cancer reminds us that she can never be tamed. She will not be tamed. And so we will look at the mother. We will look at the rewilding of motherhood. And this is something that's been underway for many years. Natural childbirth, home birth, birth surrounded by supportive women, circles of women, and women birthing innovation and ideas, and women taking their place in the economy as innovators, CEOs, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, whatever fields they're working in, the professions, and showing up in government and governing bodies, state houses, capitals, Supreme Courts. Women are rewilding, and they're saying the very thing that makes us mothers, makes us empowered and worthy of leading. Now, there are a lot of fucked up, crazy women who manage to get themselves elected and appointed, in my opinion. Not even in my opinion, it's kind of obvious. It's other people's opinion that these women are qualified, but I think it is a fact that they are not. And this is probably true in every country. It's certainly true in the United States. So I don't know why that is. I don't know why. They're giving women in government a bad name. So let's get back to Lilith. What is going to happen with Lilith in Cancer? Well, for one thing, she's going to be traveling through Cancer for 9 months. She's going to be trying whatever's happening in Scorpio, and right now not much is happening in Scorpio, but that will change in the course of 9 months. All the personal planets are going to fly around the wheel and land in Scorpio eventually. And of course, a lot of planets right now are in Pisces, and they will move through Pisces fairly quickly before Black Moon Lilith can do much in Cancer, except that Jupiter will be there for a while. Neptune will still be there for a while. And Nessus will be there for a very long while. And the moon, of course, keeps coming around. So we're going to be paying attention. Black Moon Lilith in Cancer with that mother energy is going to activate the visionary in Pisces and the mystic, the erotic mystic in Scorpio. And so we're going to be dipping into aspects of Lilith and the mother that we don't usually allow. The mother as an archetype of maiden mother crone. The mother is the one who is sexually mature and active, because in order to be a mother, you have to have sex and you have to be mature to produce the eggs and carry the child. And so she is the sexual one, and she is also the warrior because she is fierce in her protection of her young. The mother will do anything to protect her children. No other creature is safe when they threaten her offspring. And in some ways, we humans have domesticated that. We turn to the man, turn to the government, look outside ourselves. But in reality, it is us. It is this circle of women behind me that gathers around and protects the children. And then the circle around them is the masculine. So over these next 9 months, especially if you identify with the mother archetype at all, maybe you are a mother, maybe you are looking to become a mother, you're in those fertile years, whether or not you are bearing a child, and you're tuning in to what the children need, the children of all of the species, you banding together with other women, making not a, what is it that I've heard it called, my mentor used to call it a mother mind. Instead of a mastermind, we unite in the circle and create the mother mind. And we say, what do we need? What does the world need? What does the government need to be doing? What does the community need to be doing? How can we help? How can we support these families, these children, this earth? Because it's all about feeding, sheltering, thriving, and bringing the next generation forward. This is about being prolific and creative. So, mother or not of another human, if you grow food as a farmer, if you are an herbalist, wildcrafting, foraging, or growing herbs, if you are an artist, if you are a musician, if you are a teacher or a thinker, or in anything you do that's creative, an innovator and a visionary, now is your time. And you would do well to know where this Lilith in Cancer is in your chart, because it can give you insight as to where the most growth will happen. And growth often means change. So this is where Lilith can be a little bit confusing, because sometimes Lilith giving birth means something has to die. So that shadow of motherhood, of something may die so that something else can come in, it's a mystery, and it's a mystery that we surrender to. Lilith, Black Moon Lilith, always stands for letting go and surrendering to that which is of a lesser nature, and allowing that which is of a higher vibration. So that is what I have for Lilith in Cancer. And over the next 9 months, we will all learn a lot about her. I'm kind of excited because in about 6 months, she's going to hook up with my natal Jupiter and then my natal Uranus. And I wonder what will happen then. Oh boy, what fun. Reach out to me if you want to talk more about Lilith. Definitely reach out for a Divine Feminine Astrology reading before the rates go up in this summer. In July, I will be recalculating my rates. So reserve now at the current rate. And I look forward to learning more about Lilith in Cancer with you. Thank you.